Welcome in. Let's untangle three words that get used interchangeably every single day, even by people who should know better. Internet, web, cloud. They sound like synonyms, but they're actually three separate layers stacked on top of each other. The wires underneath, the most popular service running on those wires, and the practice of renting someone else's computer to do your work. By the end of this lesson, you'll use each one precisely, and you'll quietly notice when other people don't. So let's start at the bottom of the stack. The internet itself. Forget websites for a moment. The internet is physical stuff. Wires in your wall, fiber cables snaking across ocean floors, cell towers, satellites. Your home Wi-Fi joins your ISP's network, which joins other ISPs, which join undersea cables, and all those networks bolted together are what we call the internet. There's no central switch, no owner. Every device gets an IP address, like a phone number, and data travels in small packets that routers hand off step by step. And remember, the web is just one service riding on top. Email, video calls, Netflix, online games, all separate cars on the same road. Now let's talk about the biggest of those cars on the road, the web. Tim Berners-Lee invented it in 1989 at CERN, and it went mainstream around 1993 when the Mosaic browser made it click for everyone. Under the hood, the web runs on three things: HTML for the document, a URL for its address, and HTTP or HTTPS for fetching it. So here's your test. If you open it in a browser, that's the web. If it's Spotify or WhatsApp talking over the network, that's the internet, but not the web. So here's the mental model that ties it all together. The internet is the foundation, the physical wires carrying everything from web pages to email to your video calls. The web is just one service riding on top of it. And cloud isn't really a layer at all. It's a business model. You're renting someone else's servers and you reach them over the internet. Three different things, one stack. Let's zoom in on that cloud piece because the name does it no favors. The cloud is literally someone else's computer, racks of physical servers sitting in Amazon's, Microsoft's, or Google's data centers, and you're renting a slice. You bring your apps and data. They handle the power, cooling, and broken hard drives. It comes in three flavors: IS, where you rent a raw virtual machine; PaaS, where you rent a ready-made runtime; and SaaS, where you just rent the finished app. Gmail, Office 365, that sort of thing. Companies love it because there's no upfront hardware bill, and you can scale from one user to 1 million without a purchase order. And critically, cloud uses the internet. But it isn't the web. Cloud is the server side. How you reach it, browser, app, or API, is a separate question. So now that we've met all three, let's line them up and look at the same 6 questions answered across the board. Notice the pattern. The internet is a physical network from 1969, owned by nobody, and your ISP gets you onto it. The web is a service running on top. Born at CERN in 1989, free to browse, access through HTTP. The cloud is rented servers from companies like AWS, billed by usage, and reached through a browser, app, or API. Same row, 3 very different answers. That's the whole point. When you open Gmail, you're using all 3 at once. The internet carries the bits, the web delivers the page, and Google's cloud stores your mail. Here's where theory meets the help desk. When a user shouts, "The internet is down," they almost always mean one website won't load. Try another site and you've diagnosed it in seconds. "My files are in the cloud" really means Dropbox or OneDrive. Move email to the cloud means swap your old Exchange server for Microsoft 365. Wi-Fi is slow is usually the Wi-Fi, not the internet. Plug in an Ethernet cable to check. And the cloud went down means AWS or Azure had an outage, taking thousands of sites with it. Same words, very different fixes. Now let's lock in the vocabulary. 12 terms grouped into 3 layers. Internet plumbing on the left. ISP sells you the connection. IP addresses identify machines. DNS turns names into those numbers. The middle column is the web. HTTP and HTTPS move pages around. Browsers render them. HTML structures them. And the right side is cloud territory. AWS and Azure are the giants. SaaS means renting software like Gmail. And a CDN keeps copies of content close to users so things load fast. Memorize these, and every connectivity ticket starts making sense. With the vocabulary in place, let's clear up the 5 misconceptions that trip almost everyone up. Internet isn't the web. The web is just one service riding on top. Cloud isn't floating anywhere. It's someone else's hard drive in Virginia or Dublin. Cloud isn't automatically more secure. Misconfigure an S3 bucket and you've leaked data yourself. Wi-Fi isn't internet. It's just the last few meters to your router, and cloud won't replace on-premise entirely. Most serious companies run hybrid for compliance, latency, and control. And that's lesson 6 in the bag. 3 layers locked in. Internet is the wires. Web is one service riding on top, and cloud is just rented servers in someone else's building. Next up is the Stage 1 capstone, where we pull everything from lessons 0 through 6 into one clean mental model and walk through your first day at a help desk. Stage 1 ends there. And networking basics begins right after. See you in lesson 7.